Welcome to the Environmental Transformation Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Grady, and my goal is to bring you interviews with industry leaders who are making an impact in the business. We're covering topics such as sustainability, circular economy, industry providers making an impact. And today we're talking with Jim Bush and Andrew Morris from E-Tank. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks, Sean.
Hi, Sean.
Appreciate you having us.
Yeah, hey, we're going to talk a little bit about E-Tank and, what a lot of people have seen the products out on the roads. They may be driving by and not really know much about E-Tank. They might see a container sitting there. But let's talk a little bit about the history of E-Tank. And we're going to get into that. But give me a little background on the both of you guys before we really get into it. So, Jim, why don't you lead a little bit of the conversation? Tell us about, your journey and how you ended up at E-Tank. And Andrew, we'll let you do the same.
Sure. Yeah. My journey's fairly easy. Right out of college.
Right out of college. Wow.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So I graduated from a local university here. Our corporate office is in Massillon, Ohio. So we're just about an hour south of Cleveland, Northeast Ohio. And born and raised in this area. And just looking for jobs after graduating, and came across E-Tank, who at that time, very small business. We only had 2 locations, and just added a third right when I joined the staff. But just found the business, and from there started as an inside sales representative at our corporate office in Massillon, and worked there for about a year and a half. Learned the business, got an understanding of a lot of different industries that we're involved with, which we'll get to a little bit later. But began just handling orders, quotes, customer service, cold calls, things like that.
Right.
And and worked my way into an outside sales role, which took me to Indianapolis, which is where you're
That's
both.
where I met you. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Well, that's great.
Had a great time down there. Lived there for just over 7 years, and really got a chance to develop, E-Tank down in that market, and get a really good understanding of the environmental world. Right there from Indianapolis. So that's where we met, and Andrew and I met as well. And then, just prior to 2020, in June of 2019, an opportunity presented itself to move back to Massillon, Ohio, and become the director of sales for E-Tank. And took that opportunity with my wife and newborn, actually, at that point in time, and moved back, and have been here ever since. So
that's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's good news. And that's good little backstory on your journey there. So right out of college, that's, so it's the only job you've had really out of college.
Yeah. Yep. A couple of different jobs at one company. That's it.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. Andrew, talk a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. I have a degree in political science and thought, why did I do that? So I immediately went back. Yeah, exactly. I went immediately back to school in turf management. I actually went out to Rutgers in New Jersey for a 2-year program.
Okay.
Had been working at the golf course through college. Really enjoyed it. Wanted to get back into it, make it a career, and I did for a few years. But after the recession in 2008, it was kind of a cutthroat market, and was looking for an opportunity to grow. I was living in northern Indiana in a small town where I didn't really know anybody except for people at the golf course. And a colleague of mine, or a friend of mine, asked if I wanted to get in the environmental industry. Their company was growing, and so I jumped at that opportunity. It moved me back down to Indianapolis, where all my friends and family are, and learned the ropes there. Back in 2013, when I started in the environmental industry, was there for 6 years. Hopped over to another company that did industrial maintenance and waste transportation, as well as the first company. And then this opportunity presented itself, and I had to jump at it. I've been a customer of E-Tank for a long time, had always appreciated the service I got from it, from the company, from Jim and the inside sales team. And
man, he must have been convincing.
Yeah. Well, I told Jim, I said, hey, I want to get back into sales and I want to work for E-Tank. You've got a position available. Let's do it.
That's great. That's awesome. That's good to hear. So, so how long has E-Tank been around, guys?
So the company started, Alan Jaslow, the president of the company, he started it in Canton, Ohio in 1997. And so transitioned from an oil field supply company to an environmental rental company at that point.
Okay.
So
what types of services? I mean, you're supporting the environmental industry. I mean, you've got talk about that aspect of your growth in the
yeah,
environmental.
so oil and gas, it's definitely a big industry in Eastern Ohio, Western PA, and the owner of the company actually started as an oil field supply company, and somewhere down the road, they were approached by companies that were doing UST pools and remediating old gas stations or service stations, and he realized that there was a business there on the environmental side. And from that point on, really focused on that sector of the market, and implemented some things that are very unique that we'll get to E-Tank and setting us apart on the environmental side of things, and really took off from there. And as the years go on, we develop new ways to evolve, I guess, and add new capabilities. But that's essentially how it started back in '97.
Okay, so you started there as a field service, but then you moved quickly to an equipment rental company. I mean, talk about the growth of the company over the past few years. I mean, I gotta imagine, since you were pretty well invested in that oil and gas market, you probably caught the boom in the late 2000s, early. I mean, 2008, 2009, 2000. I mean, man, the boom was big out there, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, just as the economy was really going through a tough time. I mean, the oil and gas industry picked up right after that, and you're absolutely right. That was a time when the company, I unfortunately didn't have much to do with it. I was in Indiana, far away from the oil and gas industry, and really focusing on environmental and industrial. But our Ohio branch, our Western PA branch that we added in the later, 2015. They really saw a boom, and it really took off and continued to do so up until, I'd say, 2019. As things really kind of fizzled out as far as the industry was going that way. But it was a big focus here for this branch. But the nice thing about what we do, we diversify ourselves in a lot of different industries. So if one industry is really doing well, that makes up for some of the other industries that might have a down year. And you ask kind of what industries we're involved with, and you're looking at industrial manufacturing, you're looking at chemical refineries, environmental contractors, consultants,
Right.
Construction, wastewater, infrastructure, energy. So there's a wide range of things that we like to get involved with, and like I mentioned earlier, just adding to the capabilities over the course of the years, to find our niche.
So tell me a little bit about, you started out as primarily a tank company, right? You were just renting out containers and tanks type thing, right?
Yeah.
That was the main focus.
Yeah. It started off with just the round bottom tanks. They were on skids, and they were really used for fracking. And they would come from the oil field. They would be filled with material still. They would have contamination issues, things like that. And the equipment really took a beating. And it was one of those things where you have that portion of your inventory that you dedicate to that side of the business. But as you had the UST contractors calling in for frac tanks, you wanted to make sure you had clean equipment going out and in good shape that could hold liquid. And that's where it really evolved to the 21,000 gallon storage tanks that you see on the road now with the rear axle. Like a semi trailer. So that was really the first product line to launch here for E-Tank, and that it evolved down the line to roll-off containers for waste, sludge boxes as we call them, vacuum containers, all 25 cubic yard, liquid tight, and they were able to handle hazardous materials. So even more, we got even more involved on the environmental side with those.
So let's just double click on the waste side of the things on the house. So basically you're renting the containers out to like a broker or transporter, and then they use it, and then they bring it back to you for, basically cleaning and reuse.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's a wide range of users, but the waste industry is definitely a big part of it. When you have to, and Andrew can speak on this too with his background, but just working with the waste brokers, with the waste companies, the contractors. I mean, a lot of contractors are handling environmental or industrial contractors are handling their own waste now as well. And, they would rent the equipment and they would take it, they would clean or dispose of the material and bring it back empty. And we also do a non-haz cleaning service for our frac tanks that we can offer at our facilities too.
Okay. Well, when did you guys get into the e-pump? I mean, that was kind of a recent thing, isn't it? And why did you?
Yeah, fairly recent, and 2012. Now it feels like it was a lot closer than what it is now, but it's almost coming up on 10 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's not that recent.
yeah. It feels like it was just yesterday. But we added the pump rental division primarily because when you have a frac tank or a liquid storage tank, you have to get the water or liquid there somehow, right? So you're
Right.
going to use a pump or a vacuum truck or some way to get that fluid there. And the pumps were a natural progression for us because it's part of a package. You can move the liquid with a pump, and you can store it in the frac tanks or the roll-off boxes, whatever you may run into. And it really started with crossover customers in their demands, their requests for that. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So, I mean, all right. Well, let's get into, there's other competitors out in the market that have something similar. Like, I won't mention names.
We won't either.
We'll keep that for another story. But anyway, so there's competition out in the market, but what sets you apart from the other equipment rental companies, guys?
Yeah, I can speak to this as a customer. When I came into the environmental industry in 2013, I called on E-Tank and the competition, and it got to the point where I only called E-Tank, and I knew it was twofold. One, the service was quick and reliable, and two, the equipment was reliable. Not mentioning names, but we've had faulty equipment from other rental companies. I never had a problem with E-Tank. And we're also a solutions provider. You say you need a tank. Okay, we'll get you a tank, but what are you using it for? We want to make sure that the fine print doesn't hose you on the back end. You want a tank, but you're trying to store sulfuric acid. Well, that's not going to be good in a carbon steel 21,000 gallon frac tank. You need a different type of tank, which we have in the 6,300 gallon poly tanks. And we can cover some of that here in a little bit. But, it's not just about throwing inventory out to the customers. It's also making sure that they're getting the most bang for their buck. They're not getting, as I mentioned, hosed on the back end. You have a pump or filtration job. We're not going to just say, yep, we've got the equipment, here you go. We're going to help you design the most efficient, most effective system, especially on the filtration side. Are you using the right media? Are you using the right pump so you're getting the most contact time? Do you need to use redundant water technologies? It's just the level of care, the level of service at E-Tank, in my experience, is much higher than the competition.
So you're kind of really helping them understand like what's the most compatible piece of equipment to solve their immediate need. And so there's a bit of this, I guess, initial engagement that you kind of start asking them to how can we help you, like help you support the project, give us more details. Like you get on a little CSI fact finding mission, right? Just to help them solve the problem.
Exactly. Yeah, we've got on the pump job, we've got a profile we fill out. I'm going to ask you a lot of different questions like, hey, what are you pumping? How far are you pumping? How much head is there? What's your suction lift? Someone might say, oh, it doesn't really matter on the flow rate, and I'm only, pumping 20 feet. So can we just get a diesel driven trash pump? Well, you're sucking from 50 feet below grade, that trash pump's not going to work out. So now we got to go in a different route and do a submersible. So we don't want to put the wrong equipment out there. We want to, provide the next level of customer service.
No, that's really good. I mean, that, because I think there's a lot of, as a consultant, you get into, oh, I need this, and let me find a supplier that can help me get it. And in your mind, you're thinking, oh, I just need a tank, right? Or but sometimes they're not thinking of all the little details that you need to understand to put together and deliver a compatible piece of equipment that's going to meet the needs, right? And so they may just ask you that simple, hey, just send me a 5,000 gallon tank. Okay, but what are you putting in it, right? And like you mentioned, I mean, you don't want acids going into something that needs to go in a poly, and I mean, that's going to screw everything up. And then yeah, what about the the bearings and all the other little seals and stuff on pumps if you don't have that properly designed and set up right? I mean, there's a lot of implications here if you don't do it right.
Exactly. I mean, if you're pumping gasoline or diesel, you need to make sure you have the right pump for that, not just for compatibility with your seals, but also you don't want to create an explosive atmosphere, with some fumes, static electricity. So we've got pumps that can
Mm-hmm.
do that, fuel transfer pumps. We've got chemical AOD pumps for, acids or caustics. We've got stainless steel AODs. So we've got a lot of different pieces of equipment, and we're going to make sure the right one is out there for you, because we don't want to have the conversation. That's my least favorite part about this industry is when you have to come back to somebody and say, "Hey, we got a problem, and it's your fault." You don't ever want to point the finger
Yeah.
at somebody. So if we can avoid that up front, it goes a long way, and as a customer, appreciate it. And I think some of the feedback we've been given is everyone's real appreciative of it.
Yeah,
No, that makes sense.
just to add to that too. I mean, when it comes down to it, we're sending equipment out typically for someone else's issue, a cleanup issue or a response where there's a problem. And the last thing you want to do when you bring a piece of rental equipment out there is add to that problem.
Right.
And that's kind of our focus. That over the years, what we do is we try to set ourselves apart to make sure that people know what we're bringing to the table and how we can add value for those issues. That's the last thing you want to do is bring another problem onto your site.
Well, that kind of gets to the main point here of, one of the value props that you offer customers is this whole certified clean concept, right? So a peace of mind. People get a peace of mind knowing when they rent from E-Tank that the equipment's coming to them is at least at this point certified clean. Now, being compatible, that's a different question. That's why you do the due diligence up front, but it's going to be at least clean, right?
Exactly right. And that means what that means for us in a true certified clean definition is we'll know what was in that tank, and we do some confirmation sampling at no cost to our customers. They tell us what was in it. Hey, it's petroleum impacted water, or we had some chlorinated solvent water in it. We know
Mm-hmm.
it was in there. We're going to run some confirmation testing before we ever put it back out on rent to someone else. So that means your contamination isn't going downstream, but you're also not getting anybody's contamination from someone who used the tank before you.
Well, so when did the idea of delivering certified clean equipment to your customers, become? Because I'm kind of curious. Did it happen from the moment you started the business, or did it like say a couple years into it? Boy, we got burned on something. Maybe we need just to, fix this problem on the front end. How did that happen? Maybe Jim, you can tell us.
Yeah. Yeah. If I had Alan here, he would have the whole background history of this, but I can put it in the nutshell.
All right.
The business, was around for a few years, and, actually the idea of certified clean came through just customer demands, and getting into it pretty early on when we didn't really have that much of an inventory presence. We added inventory over the years, but we were able to implement this, this certified clean protocol early on in the business. And it was due to that, customer requirement of needing a clean tank to show up on site. And one of the things that, you'll see across the industry is that, people say a frac tank's a frac tank. You'll get a tank delivered to the site. They're all the same, but it's amazing. It's just not. It's not the same at all. It's just it is a tank in itself, but it's how you maintain that tank. And the last thing an environmental company would want to do is expose themselves to risk by having somebody else's contaminant on their job site and then dispose of that contaminant as well. So pretty ingenious move by Alan, and to have that, as it's something that sets us apart in an industry where there are a lot of frac tanks out there, in liquid storage containers. To have that and be the only company that can actually back it up is definitely a great selling point for our sales team and for our company.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense because, I've been involved in several projects where, the tank truck, the vac truck operator that picked up the stuff to take our product from the various client we were working with, unfortunately wasn't cleaned out before they picked up the stuff. And then all of a sudden, hey, you've got hazardous waste here. Like, no, we don't. We got data that shows it's not. Well, it's hazardous. It's flashing here at the site. And then, like, that's a big problem, to deal with. And it causes a lot of, stress, not only on a project, but just now you start dealing with, reputation, you know, regulatory compliance issues, cost. There's it can spiral, right? I mean, you can, I'm sure you probably have seen it happen before. So certified clean, sign me up. I'd be up for that all day long, right?
Great. Yeah, absolutely. No, I appreciate the story on what you've dealt with too, because we do run into that just dealing with our customers over the years. And the way we explain it, the most basic way to explain it is it's like a Carfax for tanks. And I don't know if we have any trademark issues with the podcast,
That's good. Yeah.
but it's like that. And just keeping track of each one of those tanks. I mean, from the time we brought it in to we still have most of the tanks we brought into the fleet, but we can trace it back to the beginning. And that's you're exactly right. It's very costly to run across that. No one likes surprises, and if you can eliminate those surprises, that's what we're trying to do.
So do you guys have your own like in-house testing lab that kind of like does all the sampling of clean, all the cleaning, rinse water and stuff after you do the cleaning?
So we do have an in-house lab, but that's more for our filtration side. That is
Okay.
it's qualitative testing versus quantitative testing. But as far as the confirmation sampling, we use an environmental lab
Okay. A
across
third
all of our
party.
divisions. Yep,
Yeah.
yep. So like the PACE and Vision, something like that, we'll pull a sample. Sean, you have um, a former dry cleaner site. You had a little bit of water, some chlorinated solvents in it. You say, hey, this had some chlorinated solvents. If you've got analytical, you give it to us. We're like, okay, we know what we need the lab to test for, and so something like that. Probably just run VOCs across the board on it.
Hmm.
Metals, whatever was contaminated, we'll send that to the environmental lab. So we have quantitative data showing that it's essentially non-detect. It's being cleaned out. There's no contamination. Our in-house water quality lab is, hey, I've got a filtration project. Okay, let's get a sample. We'll want analytical if you have it, so we know what we're testing for, and then we can kind of fine tune a filtration system based on a couple gallons of sample. We had one project before I came on board that had over 800,000 gallons of water that they needed to treat, and so they could discharge on site. And that's the
Hmm.
advantage of the filtration, is not having to ship it off for disposal. But they figured that out. Adrian, our division e-pump division manager, he was able to determine based off a couple of gallons the most efficient, effective way to filter 800,000 gallons of water. Went off without a hitch.
Nice. Nice. Well, I mean, that's a great, um, on-site, water treatment alternative to, an off-site disposal scenario that could be a lot more costly. So thinking like that, that's a little bit outside the box on a lot of normal projects that people are, looking for that, solution. And so you've got staff on, the sales guys, I'm sure are somewhat trained to identify these opportunities. Do you guys have some sort of a program like that to help them understand, hey, I see this, let's see if we can optimize a solution here for them?
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I could kind of speak to that. I mean, and Andrew can expand because you were part of that process, just bringing Andrew into the company and making sure that everyone's trained to a certain level. And we have an in-house support team for sure that we deal with and get that information based off of the project profile that Andrew mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And once they have that, we have a lot of the basic information you need to spec one of our projects out. And the in-house water quality lab, if you can get a water sample and have our in-house team, and credit to Adrian Erickson, who Andrew mentioned, he really designed the lab at our facility here, spearheaded that, and is able to really fine tune those projects before they go out, which saves a lot of time. It really does. I've been involved in projects before the lab and then post lab, and I will take post lab every time.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I
good.
can say just from experience, before E-Tank, I was all about, I was chasing waste. That's
Yeah.
that's what I did. I wanted the back trucks and pull that stuff off. And there is a break even point on,
Yeah.
on what
I
your
mean, there's a cost to
filtration
treating on
versus,
site too. Right. For
yeah,
sure.
exactly. So, and it also depends what you're trying to, if you got a lot of potential hazardous waste and you get permitted to do a filtration on site, well, you could go from a large quantity to a small quantity generator, which saves you some regulatory issues and training problems. So there's multiple
Absolutely.
reasons to go after the filtration, not just money, but also the headache from regulatory eyes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Um, Okay, so you've got the, your inside sales team, you've got a marketing team. I mean, like who all is involved in your team for, to support the operation here?
Yeah. So in house, like you mentioned, our inside sales team it's where I started. So I had a lot of it was my beginning in the industry really. So
You're
uh,
fielding calls, all that
yeah,
good stuff, right?
yeah, having people in the office here that are able to handle different territories, different regions, and work with salespeople for each region and really develop a rapport with our customers was crucial for us. We didn't want
Hmm.
to have a call center, where someone's calling in and talking to someone different each time and having to explain themselves.
Yeah.
So having that customized customer service approach was key, and we're continuing to develop that too.
Hmm.
And it's a really nice asset for our outside sales team because they have that support that they can rely on inside the office as well as our customers too. They can call in, we talk to them, they know them by first name, they know what project they're on. So it makes it really a smooth transition from outside to inside sales.
No, that's good. Good. So, and then like, who's managing all the equipment back at the shops? I mean, like, each yard and each location have a inventory type operation person, kind of making sure that everything's well kept and working fine working order.
Yeah, it's one of the things we really hang our hat on is our complete maintenance philosophy. And every one of our facilities, we don't just open up a facility and leave equipment in a yard somewhere. We have to have a full operational facility for each one of our branches. And the reason for that is we want to be able to have eyes on that equipment when it comes back and when it goes out. And we implemented this complete maintenance philosophy where it's a multi-point inspection checklist. And
Hmm.
again, it came about due to customer demands and requests early on, where our guys and our operations personnel, they're trained and they work on specific types of equipment. We'll have a tank and box division, a pump and filtration division, and they're specialists on that side of the business. So before it goes out, you have that peace of mind that somebody else has gone over that equipment before your on-site personnel has, which makes a big difference.
Oh, absolutely. Well, let's talk about the types of liquids and products you guys, your tanks typically are designed to hold and use for. Give the listeners an idea, like what type of products can you actually store in your tanks and not have a problem.
Just about anything. I say that, but there are some limitations. We've got a lot of different types of tanks. I know we mentioned, but we've got 21,000 gallon frac tanks. We have 18,400 gallon double wall tanks if you need the extra security, extra peace of mind that God forbid something happens with this first wall. Maybe this isn't exactly what we thought it was. We were told one thing and then it turns out there's a some sort of failure. You got 100% containment there. We've
Okay.
got mini fracs, commonly called 10Ks, but that's a misnomer. When they were first designed and introduced in the industry, they did hold about 10,000 gallons of liquid, but now it's more depending on what the model is, probably around 85 to 9,000 gallons. But
Okay.
it saves you there with footprint, which is real nice. And then we've got a 6,300 gallon poly tank, which is really, really great with a variety of chemicals. Your 93% sulfuric acid, your bleach, sodium hydroxide solutions, ammonium hydroxides. And the cool thing is on our website, we just added it in the last month. Go to etank.net. Over on the right, I think it's accessories or tools or guides. Underneath that is a chemical compatibility chart. We were able to compile
Oh.
chemical compatibility from other compatibility charts tables, and hey, you've got urea. Urea. You could type in there and find out if it's compatible with your tank or not.
Oh,
Sodium
that's great.
hydroxide. Yeah, there's a wide variety of um, chemicals on there, and it doesn't just check the compatibility with the tanks, but it also check it with our pumps as well.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I mean, that's a good to know. And what are some of the things that most people may not know that you guys are offering or to as far as a service that helps people
Yeah,
besides
I
tanks?
think. Yeah, yeah. Besides things. So, we hinted on the e pump division, but we haven't really mentioned. We haven't focused much on filtration.
Okay. Yeah.
But that's the big thing. So many people hear e tank or they hear e pump. They think tanks, pumps. As part of the pump division, we added the filtration capabilities several years ago, and it did start out, sediment filtration, and then it's really expanded and really grown. We've got, bag filters and cartridge filters that are good for sediment. But we also have carbon vessels, stainless steel carbon vessels that any sort of contaminant you may have, we can probably find out between the variety of medias we have in our lab, what's going to be efficient at making something non-detect. Um,
Do you have like
we're not
reverse
going to be able to.
osmosis systems too?
No RO systems, no.
Okay. All right.
It's more. It's going to be
Filtered
a
media.
media, and yep.
Yeah.
So the big hot thing now coming out is PFAS.
Yeah, I was
That's
getting ready to ask you about that. Are you guys
Yep.
designing systems for people to capture PFAS and what? I'm assuming using activated carbon.
So we've got a proprietary media.
Okay.
It's aluminosilicate based, but it works through ion exchange,
Mm-hmm.
and we would use that along with other redundant water technologies. So you might say, "Hey, we've got PFAS in this water. That's our main focus." Well, your filtration media is not going to know to only pull that out. It can't only pull that out. So what you do is use multiple medias and multiple vessels to serves as a redundant water technology. So you can putting it in the right series, and this is where the in-house water quality lab comes in. You want to extend the life of your media. So which media do you want to put up front? Do you want to put an organoclay, and then you go into the PFAS removal, and then go into a granular activated carbon? There's a lot of different medias we have for filtration, and we also do vapor filtration as well. So just
Oh,
filtration in general. Yeah. Yeah.
well, I mean, I can only imagine the uptick of PFAS, filtration in groundwater, especially since I think, in the industry, the EPA and a lot of states, they're getting ready to regulate as an MCL with if you're in drinking water PFAS, and so there's going to be a lot of filtration needs in the industry. Are you guys prepared for that?
We're getting there. We hope to be, and that's one of the things, Andrew's hinting on the filtration part of the business. And we're trying to really show our customer base that we're developing and designing turnkey solutions, and
Right.
developing systems for their problems. And that's the big thing. I've been in this business. I started in 2010, and really getting the word out about new products and new capabilities. That's been tough. And Andrew has been a customer in the past, and I brought him on board, and he still didn't know all of the equipment or capabilities we had. So that just kind of opened my eyes to, this is something we really need to get the word out about. And one of the reasons we're here, joining you, Sean, which I think this is a great, platform. And it's been awesome since, when did you start this? Last spring?
Yeah, last summer, yeah, in July of last year.
And just a great way to get out and communicate to people, touch base, reach out. And we used to have conferences and trade shows, and I'm sure we'll get back to it.
Sure, yeah.
But this is another great way to do it. And I applaud you for starting this up and getting this going, because it's really a good way to just stay in touch with our peers, and get the
Yeah.
word out about things that we can, at least make easier for some people, right? So that's what we want to get. That's our point, at least.
No, that's good, and I appreciate that. I mean, that's what the platform's here for, is to, shine a light on these companies that are helping solve clients' problems. I mean, you guys are in the middle of it. You're getting your hands dirty, right? I mean, you're solving problems. I mean, again, this whole, I think, PFAS. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised before long if you don't already have one. You have a whole PFAS filtration expert working for you, because it's going to be such a big deal, right? It's like we got to make sure these filtration blends are perfect. We design these GAX containers and in series the proper way. I mean, you're going to have a lot of work to solve these problems for these customers, and you guys are primed to be in a great spot to help people.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's the key, is as more regulations come out and more information comes out, staying on top of it and understanding that world, and being ready for it, and just preparing ourselves to have the right equipment, the right media, and the right services. Having people like Andrew out there, meeting with customers and looking at job sites. That's all very important.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, okay, well, let's talk about like, where are you guys, what's your footprint? Where are you guys at? I mean, so like somebody was to say, hey, I'd like to use E-Tank. I've kind of heard of you, but maybe they know some of the other competitors' name a little better just because they're maybe, their footprint's a little larger. But where do you guys operate so people can know?
So our headquarters is in Massillon, but we really have divisions from it's Buffalo, New York, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Massillon, Cincinnati, Ohio, and Indianapolis. Both of those are territories that would fall under my purview. Then St. Louis, Missouri, and then Katie's, Kentucky, which Jim opened up last year. E-Tank opened up last year during a pandemic, so growth is there, and Jim can speak to obviously the growth and the future of the company. But we can get anywhere. We've had equipment in Delaware. I've had roll off boxes and frac tanks in Delaware for a customer that, it was my customer here in Indiana, but we moved it out of the New York or the Pittsburgh office because the customer, knew the quality of the equipment, and we're wanted to go that way. So
Yeah.
wherever you need it, we can get it to you. But that is where our physical locations are right now.
So you guys have a fleet of, I guess, drivers who can take your products and your containers wherever they need to go. Really, I mean,
Yeah.
nationwide if you need it, right?
Sure, absolutely. We also work with some subcontractors that can deliver, hot shots to different further away spots as well. But Andrew mentioned our location in Katie's, Kentucky. We opened that branch up in August of 2020, and David Poteet is our salesman down there, and he's handling the region of Western Kentucky and Tennessee. And that it was a pretty good idea of what we were capable of when you open up a branch during a pandemic. What is that like? No one's ever done that before, and just kind of seeing that market accept us, because we're basically a Midwest regional company prior to that branch, and we're branching out further south, obviously. But just seeing the market, welcome us there, and show excitement for some of the capabilities we have. We're looking forward to really growing that area as well as all of our locations. But we hope to keep moving south. Hope to keep moving east and west. Before I got here, actually in 2010, at that point in time, we added our Buffalo and Indianapolis branch, was just a few years before that. And ever since then, we've added the rest of our locations, and we're just going to keep doing that sustainably and not try to grow too fast. But anywhere that it makes sense strategically, we'll look into expanding.
So let's talk about your growth strategy and your philosophy. Is it mostly an organic type growth strategy, or do you guys have any plans for looking to acquire any ideal acquisition targets?
It's mainly organic, and much like the early days of the business, our customers are pointing us in the right direction, with their demand. We like to go where we're wanted, that makes sense. And, we know what sets us apart out there in the industry. We know what our strengths are. And, there's certain areas geographically that make sense for us to expand to. And we're targeting those as we speak right now. There's still ideas out there for this year. We're hoping to add a few more branches in the next 1 to 2 years and just keep moving. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Texas seems to be a nice little spot down there. I don't know. Down the Houston area could be pretty lucrative, I bet you.
I'm sure. Yeah. It's competitive down that way. Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
the further south we go, the warmer the weather is and the more year-round work, we're all for that.
I mean, it's definitely warmer, so you got to watch out, because if you send Andrew, he might be on the golf course a lot.
I don't doubt that. You can't keep off the golf course in Indiana.
I'll be with customers. It's okay.
That's right. There's always benefits to that whole scenario. I totally agree with you. No, that's great. So are you guys privately held, or are you, is it a privately held company?
Yeah, privately owned. Like I mentioned, Alan Jaslow is the president and owner, founder of the company. Located here in Massillon, Ohio.
Awesome. That sounds great. And then let's talk a little bit about, the industries you serve. I mean, where would you say, the percentages of where you're getting, the bulk of your work? Is it from contractors? Is it consultants? Is it industry direct? I mean, give us an idea of like where you see your the bulk of your
Yeah,
work.
I mean, I'll let Andrew expand on it a little bit too on in his region, because they are all different. Like I mentioned earlier, you're going to be a little bit stronger in certain areas on industrial or oil and gas or environmental. But for the company, I'll speak to the company as a whole. It really breaks down into environmental. We look at that as far as contractors, consultants, anything on that side of the world for remediation, groundwater remediation, soil remediation. We really fit into that part of the market, but industrial as well, industrial contractors, industrial maintenance, manufacturing, that's another big portion of it. So between those two, that makes up for a bulk of our branches. That's a big part of what we do. But each region's different, and you're going to have some, say, waste management companies that hop up in the top, few customers, I guess, industry classifications that we have, or oil and gas, like I mentioned. Construction's big as well. But Andrew, how about you down there in central Indiana and Southwest Ohio?
So we actually have a lot of like civil construction and environmental contractors. That's probably the biggest for me right now, especially with the warmer weather. But as far as industrial maintenance and emergency response, that's big too. We work for some of the national companies that have divisions in my territories, but then the construction with bridge work is going on right now, and we do a lot of work with civil constructors doing hydroblast work, providing tanks for their clean water and then the water that they end up using. So it's really, I don't see much in the oil and gas because it's not here in Indiana and Southwest Ohio, but I do work for a industrial maintenance contractor at a refinery in Ohio. So it just kind of depends, and there might be. My goal is to grow the consultant side of the business, honestly, because it feels untapped just in my experience, but we're also not trying to take away business. I don't want to go to an environmental consultant and say, hey, I'll put you a roll-off box for X dollars, and then now I'm stealing work from someone who's already using me as your contractor. My goal is to get the filtration out there, because you're not going to want to ship 50, 60, 200,000 gallons of contaminated water if you can filter it and get it permitted to discharge on site. You're going to save a lot of money that way. And those are the projects I'm going after with consultants. I don't want to steal the work from people already using us.
Sure. No, that makes sense. Well, I mean, that's good. So a good mix, it sounds like. And then what about industrial wastewater? I mean, you get involved with, helping wastewater, deal with, capturing, maybe stormwater that comes through that they can't process or stuff like that. I mean, do you get called in for those type of help, those projects?
I have not yet. As a company, I think Jim could talk to the history a little bit more, but we do work again with environmental constructors, environmental contractors, wastewater treatment plants that are getting remodeled. They need a temporary system, and we may not do all the equipment, but we'll work with those contractors with temporary storage, bypass pumping.
Yeah.
And that's another sector for us to really grow into, is that bypass pumping.
No, that's good.
Industrial wastewater. I mean, just like you mentioned, Sean, that's something that I dealt with quite a bit in my previous role, and some of my larger clients had to deal with that on a consistent basis and manage that industrial wastewater. Sometimes it was mixed in with their wastewater treatment plant on site. Sometimes it was in their storm water, management on site. So that is a big part of it. If you have to quickly manage that much water, usually use a lot of liquid storage tanks and usually use pumps.
Right. Yeah.
So that's definitely one of the spots we can definitely fit in it.
Well, talk about how many pieces of equipment do you have? I mean, I've seen a lot of e-tank, containers out there. I mean, let me ask you this question. How many do you have? And then how are you tracking all of oh yeah, this customer's got this tank. And I mean, you got any technology you're using for all this stuff, or is it just, old school?
It's a great question. It's one that I can't answer. Because people will listen to this and watch it. But the way we manage it is actually ever evolving. And this is something big we've been working on over the past year. But we have an in-house system, inventory management system, that we use for all of our equipment. So it's serialized. It's managed by our office, corporate office. And so when a piece of equipment goes out, we know exactly where it's going. We can develop reports for customers that have multiple pieces of equipment on rent, because that's a big thing too. We have an easier way to manage this equipment than some of our customers do, especially if they rent quite a bit. And if you have multiple projects going on, or you have different kinds of equipment going out, sometimes it's a lot. And we'll have reports that we generate for those customers, and it's going to be even easier to manage that here in the near future once our new system is complete. Gotta love technology, and it's definitely going to help us out with our system here. But yeah, there are a lot of pieces of equipment. There's a lot of moving parts, and just managing it properly is the key function here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I know we have that piece of equipment. I mean, I don't know where it's at, but it's somewhere out here in the yard. I mean, I just
Well, the best
remember.
part too, Sean, is the support that all our branches give each other. There's no competition. I need something
Oh
in
yeah,
Indianapolis ASAP.
they're like,
The whole operations team, not just the individual branch managers, but the corporate team, they're going to figure out how do we get it from, hey, I need this specialized pump that we have that no one else can rent, and it's in Buffalo right now. That's the closest one because all the other ones are on rent. Well, I need to get it to Indianapolis. How are we going to do this? Well, we're jumping on it and we're figuring it out. We're going to take care of the customer. So it's great, the inventory management, because we also not just where they're at on customer sites, but also where they're at in which one of our facilities.
yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Well, you know, I think the listeners are going to get a good sense of, the types of services you offer. There's a lot of different products you offer as part of your service. Whether that be a container, a roll off box, a tank. Now we have pumps. You got a whole pumps solution and filtration as well. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of information about the different type of filter media you guys use on your website, and how that could be a source of solution to process and treat water or contaminants on site. That'd be great. I think they're going to get a lot of this information. So how do people get a hold of you guys? This is kind of like, you know at the end here, what how do they get a hold of you, so that way somebody has a question, they want to reach out and say, hey, I need a quote, who are they contacted?
So I'll talk for the company and let Andrew talk for his branch. But so we've been very active on LinkedIn. So you can definitely get a hold of us. Follow us on LinkedIn with our page there. All of our sales reps have that as well. But the best way to get a hold of everybody is their cell phone, and that's listed on our website under our contact. And the nice thing is, if you're working with a sales rep, say Andrew in Indiana, and you're located like Sean in Indiana there, no matter where your project is, you can call your one point of contact and he'll manage your project for you and handle whatever you need. So, phone, email, definitely check the website out because it has all of our sales representatives' information on there for the different regions that they cover.
Mm-hmm.
But we try to be out there as much as possible and make sure people know who we are. And as a small regional company right now and building a presence, we want to make sure that we're getting out quite a bit and getting our name out. So any way to do that, we love to do it. And that's why we're here today. So appreciate it.
So basically, hey, let's go to etank.com, right?
etank.net.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, etank.net. Hey, let me flash that up. I'm
etank.net.
flashing it up on the screen right now. etank.net. So there's the best place to start initially if you don't know where to go. But once you establish that relationship, you like here in Central Indiana, you got Andrew here. He's your guy.
Exactly. My email, it's very easy to remember, amorris@etank.net. I've got two cell phone numbers, but you can call just one of them. They ring to the same cell phone, but I came on board and did the Indianapolis, came on board to take over Indiana, and then ended up Jim adjusted some of the sales territories with the opening of the Katie's branch. So, gave up Evansville, Louisville, but took over the Southwest Ohio market. So I've got the 513 area code also.
Okay. Good Cincinnati area. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but both, like Jim said, both phone numbers are on our website. My email is amorris@etank.net, but call me any time of day. If I don't answer, then there's probably an emergency. You probably ought to call and have someone do a search party, find out.
Call your local emergency contractor.
Yeah, find Andrew, find out where he's at, because it's very, very, very rare that I won't answer the phone.
That's good.
24/7. We're there for our customers. I mean, we may not have a driver available, but Jim mentioned, we have a good sub network. So you have an emergency in the middle of the night, we're going to get tanks to you. We had 2 emergencies in April where had to get start getting tanks out at 11 o'clock at night, and ended up getting 9 tanks delivered in over the course of 2 days. But they needed 4 right away, and we got those out there to them. So
That's great.
it's a
That's
24/7 business.
Yeah, no, I've been on the front end of some ERs, and the sense of urgency is it's pretty big, and you're there trying to solve problems and prevent catastrophes or contamination going to that a lot of times will really have a big effect on a residential community or individuals in a plant. I mean, so your ability to respond is saving lives a lot of times, and there's no doubt about it. And so glad that you guys are doing what you're doing, and appreciate all that work. And I did want to just give you guys a shout out. I do really enjoyed your little LinkedIn video post. Andrew, you did a really nice job on the one you posted up a while back. Thought that was very good and
Thank you.
well done, very professional. I like seeing that. Keep those up, Jim. There you go. Kudos to Andrew for doing that. I don't know if your other sales guys are doing it, but he did a great job.
I got to give a shout out to Chris Ammond, our marketing manager too, and him helping with that LinkedIn page. And like I mentioned earlier, David Poteet was the first one to do the video, and Andrew kind of took it on his own there. And it's really nice to see the activity. There's different ways you have to be involved now with the COVID situation, but
social media is important these days, and a lot of people are getting that little 30-second or a minute soundbite that just triggers, oh, I got to call that guy because I just saw this. So sometimes that's all it takes. And I'm glad to see you guys active there.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate your time today and having us on, and look forward to listening to many more.
That's well, thank you guys for coming on the show. Thanks for being a sponsor of the podcast as well. And we'll get this out in the next week or so. And you guys have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Sean.
All righty.